I'm James Green. I'm the CEO of Magnetic. Magnetic does something called search retargeting, which very simply is taking the things that you've searched for, and then when you're cruising around the web, we deliver ads based on those searches. In layman's terms, we solve the marketing problem that is, which is the half of your marketing budget that you should cut, so which is working and which is not working. Everyone knows that the person that you want to sell to is the person that's interested in your product, and there's no better way to do that than search. So if I say, I want to buy a flat screen TV, or I want to buy a car, or I want to buy a pair of shoes, we're capturing that data. And then based on that data, we're serving ads. So whether that's a branding exercise because you're a new shoe company and you want to advertise to people who are in the shoe buying business, or whether it's because you really want to sell more shoes or more flat panel TVs or more whatever, clearly search is the place with the best intent and best data, and that's what we do. So search, now a relatively mature business, if you can call a business that's 12 years old mature. I think we all do. Certainly more mature than my 12-year-old. What's interesting is that in search, because it's so mature, it's quite expensive to do things. And when I say search, I mean buying keywords on Google, for example. And so what's happened is companies like ours and other companies have taken that data, that information, and enabling you to buy those people elsewhere. So divorcing the actual search, the time that you're doing search, and being able to do it somewhere else. And that's what we call retargeting. That's what the phrase retargeting means. You capture some information at some point and use it at a later point. The later point may be 1 second later, it may be a day later, maybe a week later. And clearly the trend is when you've got all of this search data, in fact, you only spend about 5% of your time searching. The other 95% of your time is spent on a social media site like Facebook, or e-commerce site like Amazon, or a content site like the New York Times. So if that's 95% of your time, taking that data that is generated in 5% of your time and migrating it over to the other 95% of the time is really the biggest trend, and is why you see, again, if you take it at a higher level, why you see display advertising getting bigger and bigger as relating to search. So snapshot of today, 2/3 of all advertising dollars are spent on search. Almost everyone predicts that as we move forward, that is going to become more even as the data of search is coming over and powering the display. It'll be about 50-50 in about 3 years. We just did a study with ComScore. We just released the information last week. And what that study was where do you do your searches and how much time do you spend searching? And what we discovered is that 43% of the average person's time is spent searching somewhere other than Bing, Google, Yahoo, AOL, Ask. And if you think about it, and I'd encourage you to think about the last time you bought something, let's go with, a pair of shoes. You're quite likely to have started that search out in Google, saying, looking for a new pair of shoes, new pumps, new hiking boots, whatever. And then you'll see a list of things, and you'll click on some of them. Maybe it be Zappos, maybe somewhere else, DSW, some other shoe stores, maybe it's a comparison site. And then you'll start shopping there, and you'll do more searches in that vertical comparison site or e-commerce site. And we find that the searches on those sites are longer. But you spend more time, we found 14% more time on average, doing your searching on those kinds of sites versus Google. And then when you're completely done with that and you've decided exactly what it is you're going to buy, if your relation to time and money is as tight as most people's are, you then go back to Google to see if you can find it cheaper. So you go and say, I've decided this is exactly what I want to buy, and you type that in, including the SKU number and everything, and you just see, can I buy it $5 cheaper somewhere else? And then you go and do it. And that's a pretty normal search history. And so the interesting thing is that the best time to reach someone is after that first initial Google search and before that last search. Right in the middle there is when people are trying to decide what shall I buy? What brand shall I buy? Shall I buy a big flat panel TV? Shall I buy a small car? Shall I buy a big truck? Well, and they're refining and refining and refining, and that refining typically doesn't go on in one setting unless it's maybe for flowers. Most products, if we think about when we're going to make a commitment to buy something, unless it's a very, very low purchase point, we take that over a couple of settings. And so that's the time where you gather that data, and then you retarget people as they're in that decision-making mode, trying to figure out what they're going to buy, and you show them ads for your brand. You're looking for shoes, you should buy my brand of shoes. And hopefully that will encourage people to go and do that when they actually come back to make that purchase funnel. So that's where your question was about non-search data. It's really, or non-Google data. It's those sites in the middle, the vertical sites, the e-commerce sites, the shopping comparison sites. It's really, really fantastic high-intent data, and every marketer should be using it. I think what's going to happen in 2012, if I was to make a prediction, is that it's going to be a very good year for some and a really bad year for others. So as I look at the market, and I look at the number of people in the market, and I look at what's happened, over the last few years we've seen a lot of things happen. We've seen exchanges develop, and lots of people can buy on those exchanges, and lots of people have different ways of using data. But there are many, 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 many players in each of the spaces. Search retargeting, lucky for us, only has a couple of players, but if I look at the site retargeting space, I think there's 25 companies doing site retargeting in the United States. And typically in any market, you get a couple of winners, maybe one big winner, a couple of other also-rans, and then a bunch of smaller companies. And what we're going to see in 2012 and into 2013 is a lot of mergers and acquisitions, companies becoming really successful and stepping ahead of the crowd. We like to think we're the leader in search retargeting. And others who can't quite make the grade, and still others who will just disappear. Because there's too many players in this marketplace at the moment. So that's going to be very, very interesting, lots of opportunities for everyone. And I'm very interested to see how it all shakes out.